Dice. There's a lot of them. Some of them are good, some of them aren't. In this video, we will rank every single die, including the new ones. Enjoy.
So the first die we're looking at is Carmine die, and this die looks really good with a lot of different sets like Infernal, and it also looks good with the Red Warden. But it is really rare, and it does contrast other helmets like the Necron head, so I think I'm gonna have to put Carmine die in the A tier. So next set we have here is Necron die, and Necron die looks really good. The Necron color is nice. It looks good on Crimson 2, and also looks good with Warden. Not bad with True Warden. It is also really common and cheap, so I'm also going to throw Necron die in the A tier. Alright, the next die we have here is Red Brick die. Red Brick die looks good. It's kind of a similar hex to those two, but it's a lot rarer and isn't quite as much of a true red, I guess, as those. And personally, I think it's just slightly worse. I'm going to have to put it in B tier. Our next die is Chocolate die, and I'm not going to say much for this one. F tier. Okay, so now we have Flame die. It's kind of similar to the Flaming Chestplate hex. This die is really rare. Goes good with a Crimson helmet, but that's honestly about the only helmet it goes good with. I don't love this one. I'm going to put it in C tier. Alright, so our next die is Mango die. It's a pretty common die, but it's yellow. So that kind of outweighs the fact that it's common. So I'm going to throw it in D tier just because yellow doesn't really go with anything in this game. So now we have Pure Yellow die. This one was from the raffle. And it's kind of like Mango die, except it's rarer and it looks worse. So Pure Yellow, F tier. So next die we have is Lucky die. It's one of the few animated dies. And honestly, it looks really good with Fermento, especially the Harvester skin. And it also looks alright on Necron as a dungeon setup, but it's just not quite as good as some of the other animated dies, so I'm gonna have to put it in B tier. Our next die is Nyanza, and it honestly looks like a discount bone die. It's really rare from creepers. I don't know who's going for this or who's buying it. I'm gonna put it in the D tier. So we have Celadon die. It's kind of similar to Nyanza die, except it's more of a minty color. It's almost 10 times rarer than a Nyanza die. However, it looks significantly better. I think this one goes in the C tier. Okay, so this die is Emerald die. I think this die is absolutely gas. It's like they took the best hex out of Lucky die and put it onto its own armor set. It is rare, but it is also like obtainable, so these go up every so often and you can buy one. I think this die looks great, so I'm putting it in S tier. Our next die is Holy die. It's, as you know, the most common die, and it looks okay. However, there's really only one use for this, and that's that it kind of matches with the Clover helmet. But I'm guessing not a lot of you have the Clover helmet, and honestly, I don't either. But that's really the only use I see with this die, so I'm going to put it in C tier just because it's so easy to get. Okay, here we have Aquamarine die. This die is really, really nice looking, especially with a lot of the diamond heads. It's a real shame that this die is so rare because it looks so good. But despite its rarity, it's going to have to go in S tier just because of the looks. Now we have Celeste die. It's kind of like what I would say is Aquamarine's older brother. I think it matches the Necron head a little better. It looks a little more icy. I would use it as an adjective, and I think I like it more. And despite its rarity, again, it's going to be S tier. Okay, so now we have Iceberg die. Iceberg die is extremely rare, being from a limited event, and it's just one of the lowest drop chances of any of the dies. And it looks pretty good, but it's just so rare. So I think I'm going to put it A tier. Okay, so now we have a special die. It's currently unobtainable and never will be obtainable. It's the old Livid die that they announced a long time ago. And it's changed from the new release Livid. But since it's never going to be obtainable, I'm not going to really rank it based on how easy it is to get. But I really like the hex, so I'm going to give it S tier. So here's Tentacle die. I like the Tentacle die. I'm a big Kudra guy. So I always kind of thought about maybe getting one of these, but they're just so expensive. And the Hex does look really nice, the True Warden, I will say. But that's really about the only armor I think it matches. Because it's so rare and it doesn't match a ton of stuff. I think I'm going to put it C. Now we have a favorite of many, the Warden die. I think this is a lot of people's favorite animated die, and it honestly looks really good. Matches, obviously it's meant to match with the True Warden skin, but it matches so much other stuff, like Celestial Wither Goggles. It matches all the diamond heads well. I think this is the best animated die, so I'm going to put it S tier. Okay, so here's Bingo Blue die. It's kind of the OG blue die before pure blue came to the scene. But this die looks really nice. It's not too blue, and I think it just fits a lot of stuff well. But it's just kind of hard to get, so I'm going to put it B tier. Okay, now we have pure blue die. I think this die is off-brand bingo die. It's easier to obtain. I don't think it looks quite as good, and for that reason, I'm putting it D tier. Okay, so now we have dark purple die. This die is kind of cool. It kind of looks like a fairy hex, which makes it a little bit lamer. It's pretty rare from the DA, but usually these are up for at least over a bill, around 2 bills sometimes. It doesn't look fantastic. I'm just gonna put it C tier. So midnight die. This die is from Spooky. Honestly, I like the hex, kind of like dark purple. It's like a fairy hex, so you could probably get it for cheaper, a similar looking color at least. And I think it looks better than dark purple though, so I'm gonna put it B tier. Okay, so Byzantium. I think this might be the most overrated die in Skyblock. I know a lot of people put it on Storm with the Maxor skin, and it looks fine, but that's really the entire and only use of this die in the entire game. It's got to be a D tier for me. So now, Wild Strawberry die. I think this is the second most overrated die in the game, behind Byzantium. People just put this on anything because it's cheap and it exists, and they really shouldn't be putting it on stuff. Like, please keep this off your Necron, I'm begging you. It's going right next to Byzantium in D tier. Epic fail. So here's Cyclamen die. There's been a lot of news about this one recently with people grinding it a lot and it being dropped. It looks alright. It's kind of like a pure pink, fairy pink. I think it looks pretty good with Necron, just because it's more of a pastel than like the strawberry. So for that reason, I'm going to put it C tier. So Nade Chico, I think this is kind of a worse Cyclamen. It's a little too grayed out, a little too washed to get that really pink color. So because it's kind of a worse Cyclamen, I'm going to throw it into the D tier. So here's Bone die. It's kind of like you added a little cream into the pure white die. I think it looks pretty good. It's really unique. However, like the other dies up here, it's very rare. But I think I want to put it A tier just because it's kind of a unique color. Okay, so here's pure white die. A lot of people have this, of course. The Bitch Shop die. I do think Bone looks better than it. And it's also used a lot. So I think a fair spot to put this is in the B tier. So similarly to pure white, a lot of people have and use pure black. And it looks good, but I don't think it looks better than pure white. So it's going to go right next to it in B. So the last of the non-new update dies, we have Portal die. I think it's the second best animated die. Lucky's worse than it. Warden is better than it. It looks pretty good, generally. Some of the purple dies do. But I do think it looks better than the rest of the purple dies, so I think it deserves A tier. So I don't actually have a set, but Rose die. I like Rose die. I would say it's the third best animated die, right above Lucky, but not quite up to Portal level. It doesn't really match as much stuff. It doesn't quite match the Crimson Element, and it also really doesn't match the skinned Warden that well either. And so if I did have it up here, I would put it B tier next to pure black. Okay, so our first of the new dyes is pearlescent dye. This is a really unique color. I think this is what technical dye should have been. It looks really good with a lot of sets, and I think I'm gonna put it S tier. Okay, so here's Archfiend dye. The hex is kind of cool on this. It reminds me of a cross between strawberry and Carmine dyes. It just has a little bit of pink and a little bit of red. And I also love this dye because it promotes gambling, and I like to see everybody lose all their money, so it's going to be A tier. So here's Copper dye. Honestly, when I put this on an armor set, I couldn't even tell that I dyed the armor. It looks so bland. Doesn't even come from an interesting source. It just comes from collecting visitors. And it's just really a lame dye in my opinion. So I think I'm going to put it F tier. So here's Dung dye. I don't actually hate this one as much as I thought I would when I saw the name. I was expecting a chocolate dye remake, but it actually has a hints of red and doesn't look horrible. So I think I'm going to put it C tier. So here's Fossil dye. This is exactly what I imagined Dung dye was going to look like when I first heard the name. This doesn't look good. It's going F. So here's Jade dye. It looks very similar to Emerald dye. It's a little more blue. It's kind of like a cross between Aquamarine and Emerald. I think the way you get it is really neat. Looks pretty cool. Looks all right with Necron Head 2, which is nice. I think this is an A tier dye. So here's the new Livid dye. I don't think this looks even close to as good as the old Livid dye. I think they should have kept that. However, it doesn't look awful. It has kind of like a pink brownish tone to it. I think it deserves C tier. Here's a Matcha dye. It's kind of a cool green hex. Comes from Killing Revenant Horrors, which I think is cool that they're making a Slayer dye. I really like that. And I also think the hex is really nice, so it's going A tier. This is Mocha dye. I see what they were kind of going for with it. It's just, I think it's a little too bland. They could have gone for a more rich dye on this, and I think I would have liked it a lot more, and for that reason, it's going to go D. So here's Pelt dye. I'm a big fan of this one. It kind of looks like a little bit of a mix between pure white, pure black with a little more black. It's kind of a dark gray. I think it looks good with, a lot of different stuff. I think it looks especially good with gold or diamond heads and then normal with the goggles, but I really like this one. I think I'm putting it A. So this is Periwinkle dye. I think this is my, if not one of my favorites, my favorite dye from the new update. It's a really nice baby blue, sort of, with some kind of white ice mixed in there. And I think it deserves an S tier just because of the hex alone. So this is Sangria dye. It's kind of like Carmine dye, Necron dye's big brother, in my opinion. It's really bright, vibrant red. It looks pretty good with the Red Warden. Almost matches it perfectly. Looks good with Raising Helmet too, matches that. I think this dye is really nice looking. It just is red, which a lot of stuff in this game is more blue tones or green tones, so it doesn't match it as well. So it's going to be A tier. Okay, so our final dye, Secret dye. I think this is another cool dye. It comes from Dungeons, which I'm a big fan of. I really like the way you get it. Drop from Dungeon Secrets, so it's kind of like a treasure talisman, except just stupidly rare. And the hex just looks fantastic too. It looks good with Necron. It looks good with Wither Goggles. Like, this is just a great dye, so it's going S tier.
If you've made it this far into the video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and maybe joining our Discord. So thanks for watching, and if you have anything to add, please do so down in the comments.